Greetings from a beautiful Durban, South Africa. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you from wherever in the world you're joining us. Welcome to the second session of a three-part webinar series hosted by FIDIC, focusing on building better future leader groups. I'm Jessica Ramchan of FIDIC Africa's Executive Committee and FIDIC Future Leaders, and I'll be moderating this session for you today. Last week, we focused on the why behind future leader groups and the motivation for the formation of the groups. And by understanding the role and the structures within FIDIC, the MAs and the regional groups gave great context to existing groups that are stagnant and for the formation of new groups. We then explored some of the critical success factors of two very well-established groupings of future leaders from Canada and South Africa. So if you missed out on that session, check out FIDIC's media channel. I'll give you a little more details on that shortly. But this week, we focus on the details of building a future leaders group. This session will be structured with a welcome message from our FIDIC president, William Howard. We will then explore the significant roles that FIDIC and the MAs play in constituting and supporting our future leader groups. The key is a strong strategy that's essential for any grouping to succeed. So a strong business case is essential, and we're going to unpack the building blocks of a solid business plan. And then the support systems of future leader groups from the regional groupings, which will then lead us into a case study of two very young and intermediate groups from Uganda and Botswana. Barbara? Thank you. So as I told you a little bit about our social media, we are the future leaders. So we should get tweeting and active on our social media. So to communicate with us, please do visit the FIDIC media channel on YouTube to stay up to date with various FIDIC activities and the very successful COVID-19 webinar series. Make sure to also tag FIDIC on your feedback on these sessions, hashtag FIDIC webinars. Also connect with us on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. That takes us right into our session with our President's welcome message. Welcome President William Howard joining us from the States. His message is going to be focusing on advocacy and strategic direction of future leaders and future leader groups. Over to you, Bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica, and I will be brief. First of all, I would like to thank the Secretariat for their background work in putting these webinars together. Under any circumstances, putting webinars like this together would be a challenge, but under the circumstances that we're all facing with the pandemic of COVID-19, it makes it even more challenging. So my wholehearted thanks to the Secretariat for putting these programs together so successfully. I'd also like to thank Jessica and Cosman for their work in organizing this particular element of our webinars, that is the future leaders. And finally, and certainly not least, I would like to thank the speakers for participating with us today, as well as those who have logged in to hear the presentations and perhaps ask some questions. I know all of you are extraordinarily busy. You're always busy, but you're certainly busier during these challenging times with not only your businesses, but also with your family. So I very much appreciate that. I'll just say a few words, perhaps to frame this session just a little bit. And it's all around the concept of strategic planning. FIDIC over the last few years has been really focusing on major changes to our organization by implementing, first of all, developing and then implementing a strategic plan, which will transition us to a much more visible and more effective FIDIC, demonstrating essentially the value that we bring as the voice of the global consulting engineering community. And those words are easy to say, but they're not the easiest thing in the world to do. It was complicated before the pandemic, and now the challenge is even more significant and complex as we make our way through the pandemic and hopefully get out of it in reasonably good condition. There's a lot of elements to our strategic plan, all sorts of things. But a very key element of our plan that we're going to talk about is the involvement of our future leaders. We have had an active future leader, young professional group for quite some time, perhaps maybe 15 years. The change with our strategic plan that I think is extraordinarily significant is we as a board are committed to get our future leaders involved with all the committees that we have and get them to have much more of a voice with us as we move forward. What makes that different is in the past, we were focusing primarily on training young professionals and future leaders to be our future leaders. That certainly hasn't changed, but now we want to add to that, getting their valued input on the many challenges that we face. So that's a key element of our strategic plans. Our involvement in all committees, again, sharing with us what's going on around the world and helping us, and this is a big one, helping us communicate to the world the challenges that the world is facing in the way of infrastructure investment. Prior to the pandemic, the infrastructure investment was inadequate. It's even more so now. We have historically prepared state of the world reports, basically booklets that dealt with different aspects of that. We're looking to the future leaders working with the Sustainable Development Committee to help us communicate state of the world messages in a much more effective way using social media and other tools such as webinars such as this. And we anticipate, now that the webinars that we conducted for COVID-19 are over, we anticipate starting up, working with the summer with the future leaders and the Sustainable Development Committee to start working on these state of the world reports. First, we'll focus on infrastructure and the needs for investment and the role that engineers have and can have in reducing the cost of it. Then moving into water and sanitation, for example, tying that into the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and certainly the activities that our Sustainable Development Committee has been working on. There's a lot of work involved in it. We really need the future leaders to help us so that the fruits of the effort come through as much as possible. That's a specific example of what we're talking about at the board level in terms of involving our future leaders. But we want our future leaders, again, involved in all elements of FIDIC, advising us and helping us move our organization forward, because after all, you're the folks that are going to inherit the results of this work. So with that, back to you, Jessica.
Thank you, Bill. I think Bill's been great over the last 2 weeks in articulating exactly the really critical role that future leaders play, not just in FIDIC and FIDIC's committees, but across the regions, as essentially the voice of consulting engineering, and who better to contribute to that narrative than the future leaders. And to pick up on the strategic planning element, one of the key things on the success of a future leader group is essentially the planning and the support for your future leader group. So in part one of this session, we're going to be focusing on planning, support, advocacy, and financing your future leader groups. We have with us today the perspectives from FIDIC on the global perspective on future leader groups, but also we're rejoined by Godfrey Ramalisa, who will talk from an MA perspective. So taking us into this next session is Italo Goizueta, who's the operations director at FIDIC. He's going to explain the support system that FIDIC has in place for future leader committees and groups, and also how the future leaders feature in FIDIC committees and across operations, and Italo, you may join us. Your session starts now. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. I hope you can all hear me correctly. As Jessica mentioned, I am the Federation Operations Director of FIDIC. I have been working in FIDIC in Geneva in the headquarters for 9 years now. And I have been able to see the evolution that also our president just mentioned, the development of the Future Leaders Group. This is the new name of the previous Young Professional Forum group. And my message today is going to be mainly addressed to those that are that would like to know more a little bit about this group, and eventually that are hearing us from member associations or countries or from companies where you do not have this type of groups in your country. So first of all, I would like to clarify the different groups that are available in FIDIC, because with the new name, most of these groups starts with an FL, which means future leaders. But I want you to understand the structure of this a little bit, so we can go into the explanation little by little during the little time I have been given to speak to you. So the Future Leaders Group is what it used to be the forum, the Young Professional Forum in the past. This is the largest group of basically young professionals of FIDIC. These are professionals working in consulting engineering firms that are members of national associations. Okay, this group has been created in 2004, so 16 years ago. Most of the members are no longer young professionals, but senior professionals in our days. And this is what is actually the purpose to have all these leaders working now. And in this group, we try to develop the different generations of professionals working in the different countries of the world. Basically, as Bill mentioned, this group was built up from the former Young Professional Management Training course. Today, this is called the Future Leaders Management Certificate. This is a separate group where young professionals, like most of the audience today, join, and they pay a registration fee, and they are able to follow a course which takes 7 months, and most of the courses are online, and then there is an opportunity to have a face-to-face meeting during the International Conference of FIDIC. The group overall, what I mentioned, the Future Leaders Group, is led by the Future Leaders Committee, which is the group of 24 young professionals that are leading the activities of the big group. What I call big group is around 4,000 people that are connecting to FIDIC activities in different ways, through LinkedIn, in general social media, or different groups when they attend the conferences of FIDIC. So this Future Leaders Committee, as I said, is composed of 24 members. Some of them will be speaking today. You have Lyubomir from EFCA, Jitendra representing the ASPAC region, the Asia Pacific. You have Rodrigo from Latin America, and Harold representing the FIDIC Africa. So this is quite important for us to have these committed people also speaking today. And as I said, in addition to that, we have the management certificate, which is the course that I mentioned before, which is led actually by a group of mentors who are trainers to develop what I personally call an MBA that is specific for consulting engineers in the world. So I try to explain these big 3 groups within the Future Leaders. I hope it was clear. And I would like to now explain to you how FIDIC support these groups. So the support comes, of course, first of all, our dear President Bill Howard, who you just heard. Bill, together with Nelson Ogunshakin, the CEO of FIDIC, they provide overall support for the development of this group. And they work close with the committee, with two delegates that are part of the FIDIC board of directors group, Mr. Mark Pellick from the Netherlands, who has primary responsibility for the Future Leaders Committee, and Mr. Anthony Barry from Australia, who has secondary responsibility. These two board members, they communicate directly with the board for any matters. The committee represented by the chair, who you will also hear later, Cosmin, from Romania, communicate with them, also participating in the board meetings. In addition to that, of course, you have the support of the Secretariat, which is in a way represented by myself and the rest of the team in Geneva. And we provide administrative services to the Future Leaders Committee to organize regular meetings and to develop all FIDIC activities and events. I will explain a little bit more about what I mean by activities and events, but also I would like to mention that we also support the MAs, those that are hearing us today that would like to develop these groups, especially, and also the regional groups that already have groups of young professionals, but that would like to work closer with FIDIC or develop other activities for the benefit of our young professionals. Okay. If, of course, the groups do not exist, we also, in the Secretariat, in conjunction with the Future Leaders Committee, we produce publications like the Future Leaders Reference Document that is in preparation at the moment. We are updating the 2018 version to give you guidelines on how to form national groups of young professionals, and also, or future leaders, sorry, and also to develop the activities within the regional groups, geographical regions of FIDIC. So just to finish, I would like to also mention that, as I said before, that Cosmin, the chair of the Future Leaders Committee, participates in all board meetings of FIDIC. This is very important for the development of the activities and have direct communication with the board. And the future leaders are involved in working committees of FIDIC. We have 10 new committees. So I invite you to have a look at the FIDIC website. We have different areas of activities like integrity, sustainability, diversity and inclusivity. You will see on our website, and we encourage the participation of at least one future leader in each working committee. The events that I mentioned before includes the Future Leaders Awards. And then we also have others support activities, as I said, like publications, where we have a Future Leaders booklet. And I just want to mention there is a deadline for call for papers at the end of this month. So I really invite you to contribute to this publication. And we also have the participation. We have a budget in FIDIC in order to support the activities of young professionals within regional conferences, the annual FIDIC conference, and events that are related are actually taking part of the annual conference, like the Symposium of Future Leaders, technical tours, and networking events that are very important for the development of a strong group within FIDIC. I would like to just finish, Jessica, I imagine I have my time running off. That is for us very important. I mentioned the reference document that we are preparing in conjunction with the committee, the Future Leaders Committee. What is key is the support of member associations. And if we have member associations that are a little bit lost on how to start these groups, we are here at the Secretariat to help you develop that. We really need your involvement, and with your support and with our work, we can create new groups and make our network, our international network, bigger and stronger. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Italo. So I think that we've seen over the years the increased support from FIDIC for future leader activities, and also the financial support and the administrative support that's come with that. And that's been fantastic. And that's also been one of the catalysts for the growth of the Future Leaders movement, if we want to call it that. And I think that Italo contextualized the global perspective really, really well. So thank you for that, Italo. We're gonna head over closer to home for me, back to Johannesburg, South Africa. We're gonna switch to Godfrey Ramalisa. Godfrey is the Stakeholder Engagement Manager at Consulting Engineers South Africa. And Godfrey is going to explain the support that a member association provides to its future leader groups. And this covers stuff like management, admin, marketing, financial support, governance. He's also going to tell us about some of the incentives and industry initiatives. And Godfrey is the champion of lobbying and advocating for future leaders in South Africa. So Godfrey, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Jessica, and greetings from Johannesburg. I think my role here is actually to share some thoughts, maybe a journey which we have traveled and which we are still carrying on with, which is about the relationship between a member association and a future leader group. And I will really start from the beginning. And I think for CISA, that was when maybe around 2004. And this is an idea which I would like to share with other countries maybe that have not yet established future leaders group. So it basically starts with a call from the directorate or the member association to members asking for volunteers, for young professionals who are willing to join the cause or to join the movement. After they've come together, then the member association organizes elections for them to prepare a committee. And that is how you kind of like formalize a future leaders group. And the elections of that committee has to mirror the election process of the member association. Like for example, in South Africa, we have elections for the president and the deputy president, and those two positions, they serve a term which is 2 years. So the future leadership group in South Africa, which formally is known as YPF, then also will elect a president and a deputy president, and they will serve for 2 years. The other thing that is required to get traction is the issue of funding. And I'm happy that Italy has said there is budget within the parent organization FIDIC to look after the structure. So it's important for an MA also to set aside seed funding in the short term, maybe 2-3 years, so that the forum can gain its traction. The MA, which is CISA as an example here, then must continue to provide administration support. So I think with us, really, we are privileged because we have like 17 people that works for CISA, and there are people assigned to support young professionals. But very, very important is that the governance of the Future Leaders Group must mirror that of the member organization, whether it is their constitution or it is the bylaws, because the Future Leadership Group is not detached from the parent organization. So it must mirror the governance of the member association. Going forward, a call is made for people to participate. And I think right in the beginning, CISA or whoever people were there in the beginning forming the YPF decided that they need to hear from the young professionals. They need to get them involved. And there were some ideas which came out, and some of the ideas were implemented as few categories in the CISA Aeon Engineering Excellent Awards. So in the year 2004, a category of Young Engineer of the Year was launched together with the forum, so that the forum or the group can gain traction. But the MA extended to even allow the Future Leadership Group, which is YPF, to actually have its own recognition awards. So since the year of 2013, YPF, Future Leaders Group, has been running its own award, recognizing those people that are supporting young professionals, that are supporting the forum in many ways. Some of those awards have gone to individuals, some have gone to even member firms, some have gone to sponsors. So it's important that a member association encourage young professionals to participate. And also member firms must also encourage their young professionals to volunteer and participate in all the activities of the member association. Yes, with CISA, we've gone further. I think in all our committees, whether it is the CISA board or the CISA council or all committees of council, they all have representation of young professionals. It is important because it brings in fresh ideas, and with those ideas then it becomes a win-win situation between the young professionals and their member firms and also the member association. And yes, of course, the establishment of the Future Leaders Group should be to carry the mandate of the member association further. And I always want to go back to long ago. I don't know if Chairperson of FIDIC will agree with me, but apparently long ago, member associations were actually established to regulate the industry. They were established to prevent the unqualified from selling engineering services or built environment services. They were created to protect the health, the safety, and the welfare of the people. They were actually created to create a conducive environment for consulting engineering services, to allow consulting engineers to make the difference and come up with maybe 5 things, with better procurement methods, with better contracts, with better or reasonable fees, with better training and development, which include the mentoring of young professionals so that they can register as professionals. And also to better the life of people by coming up with reliable infrastructure, with cost savings methods so that we can do much more with less. Before I close, I would like to talk about the money issue again. In the beginning, I've said it will have to be the member association setting aside funding for the organization. But the organization itself, once it gains traction, it is going to be able to attract sponsorship on its own. And in South Africa, we have created sort of like a 2-tiered system for sponsorship, which is gold and silver. And I would like to mention some of the firms that are supporting us. Under gold, we've got Aon, Orecon, Mott McDonald, Royal Askoneng, DHV, SMEC, and under silver, we have BMK, we have Carifro, we have Jones & Wagner, we have Knight Pisold, McLean Solutions, and M&A. It's important that I mention them because they will continue sponsoring us. But also, we've gone further to generate income through attendance of events. With the online platforms now, we kind of like lost. We're gonna have our own young professional conference online and it's gonna be free. Whereas previously we will have few delegates paying and we will again solicit sponsorship and generate money through that aspect.
Audrey, if you can
on that financial note, Jesh, I would like to thank all of us from Johannesburg.
Thank you, Godfrey. I think we see the real importance of what we're doing as future leaders, and I think that it's great that Godfrey's brought back for us to understand the multiplier effect that infrastructure development has, and the really critical role that we play. So also well done, Godfrey, and also for you to pay the bills and thank your sponsors. And I think that it's an incentive and it's a financial model that's that's sustainable, because it encourages future leader groups to stay active, whilst it also brings the sector together. And that's really something that other MAs will also should also try to replicate. And we're trying to do it at the regional groups, and we're trying to do it at a FIDIC level. So we do encourage member firms to also support us in that mandate. So that brings us to the end of part one, and takes us into part two, which is our strategic direction for future leader groups and the role of business plans. So we're going to switch we're going to stay in South Africa, actually. We're going to have Yanko Banda, who's the chairperson of the Future Leaders of Consulting Engineers South Africa, and Amanda Masonda Mkize, who is the past chairperson of the Future Leaders group of CISA. And what they're going to do is they're going to share the significance of strategic planning and how do you identify what strategy is ideal for your future leader group. Also, what would your group's strategic objectives be? How do you structure your group geographically in terms of arranging events and activities that meet the objectives? So they will share their experience from the CISA, from developing the CISA Future Leaders Business Plan, and how it works. So over to you, Yanko and Amanda. You have 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you, Jessica. And can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
Just go ahead, Amanda.
Okay, thanks. So good afternoon, everybody. So I'd just like to firstly thank FIDIC for allowing the future leaders the opportunity to engage on this global platform amidst the time where we cannot physically meet or attend our annual conferences. So thanks to FIDIC. During this presentation, I will share the importance of strategic planning. I'll make reference mostly to the Future Leaders of CISA's business plan, and then Yanko will then elaborate more on the business plan and share with you what we have done and intend to do as the CISA Future Leaders. So to begin with, as mentioned in the previous webinar and by Godfrey, CISA YPF was launched in 2004. And then in 2007, under the leadership of Dr. Michelle Kruger, the Young Professionals Forum drew up their first business plan. We believed that by developing this document, we are preparing sort of a rule book that governs what we do and also how we are to execute the activities that we aim to have throughout the year. And having a business plan assists us in accomplishing our vision and mission. And as diverse as we are, it assists us to have a unified focus towards the goals that we want to achieve. As CISA, we have identified that we need, as best we can, to accomplish our strategic objectives, which are creating awareness of the engineering industry and consulting engineering as a profession, promoting the development of high quality professionals in the consulting engineering industry, and also to address the relevant issues that affect young professionals. Our business plan further highlights how the forum intends to accomplish these strategic objectives through a marketing plan, an operational plan, and having the business plan further compels young professionals and the young professionals committees, as Godfrey had mentioned, to adhere to CISA's code of conduct. One of the advantages of having a plan in place is that one doesn't have to reinvent the wheel. The business plan allows us to have a base to work from, and it also provides the much needed direction. For example, when a new term of leadership is elected in the Young Professionals Forum, there's already a defined structure that is presented in our operational plan that outlines the main purpose of the forum, and it provides the functions and role of each person that is elected onto a committee. And we've taken this further in defining the roles and functions of our committee members at our regional levels. Our operational plan also defines the durations of terms of office, the procedures of joining and becoming a member of the forum, and also termination of membership of the forum. And I think it greatly assists us as well with succession planning and ensuring a smooth transition between our terms of office. And then fortunately for us, the CISO YPF business plan affords us an opportunity to input our creative ideas and strategies that can only assist us to grow as a forum and increase its successes. When a term of leadership is elected, under that current chairperson, they are given an opportunity to revise this document. And by doing so, we are keeping the document live and relevant. So we always make sure that we are abreast with the current trends and the current times. Bearing in mind that when the first business plan was developed in 2007, what worked then may not be relevant with what works for the future leaders currently. So we can safely say that over the years, our business plan has been refined, allowing us to determine what we want to do, and in the process, identify what does and doesn't work for our future leaders group. So in conclusion, I'll say that having a business plan and a strategy helps you to communicate better with members of your group. It also ensures that you are unambiguous, especially in the decisions that you put forward and make as a group. And we as current future leaders, we need to be aware that we are paving the way for younger generations to come, and having a strategy or plan in place can serve as the much required stepping stones or building block for other future leaders. I'll now hand over to Janko, who will discuss further on our business plan. Thank you.
Hi everyone, all protocols observed. As indicated earlier by Amanda and Godfrey, the business plan was developed by us and for us as a means to ensure continuity of the future leaders groupings. So what this means in essence is that this business plan is a rule book that governs our activities, and it also ensures that we act within our mandates as highlighted. And I think one of the other key things of having a business plan is that, as indicated in the previous presentation, that we have 11 regions within the 9 provinces of our country. This ensures that all the various leaderships in the various regions are reading from the same script and doing more or less similar activities and within the bounds. So in essence, this is just a guiding document, and as Amanda indicated, it clearly outlines what is our vision, what is our mission, and what is our objectives. It has a marketing plan so that future leaders who come in when your term ends, you're not developing things from scratch. So you already know what platforms you use, you already know what has been done to create awareness so that you can improve on that, because as indicated, the whole point is not to reinvent the wheel, but to better whatever is already put in place. And by our marketing plan, we'll also indicate like what social media platforms you can use, how do we brand ourselves, what activities you can have. So you kind of learn from what the other regional leaders are also doing. The business plan also has an operational plan, which gives the structure of the committee, both at executive, national committee, and regional committee, as well as the functions of the various committee members. So as Amanda also indicated, it outlines how to hold elections, how many proxies can a person have, if a person is no longer able to serve on the committee, how do you go about terminating and filling their role to ensure that the committee effectively runs and the grouping is able to achieve its mandates for the duration of its term. And then we also have a financial plan where we as young professionals draw up a budget with the help of Godfrey, who's the overseer for the young professionals. So basically with every treasurer that comes in, you already have a basis as to what was previously budgeted for, and then you know how to mark up or mark down, and then seeing the actual expenditures, you are then able to adjust the budget accordingly. So we highlight where we expect our income to come from and how we anticipate to spend the money. And then this also tells us if we're going to have a loss or a profit, and enables us to, if we have to request additional funding from the mother body, we are then able to do this. So as indicated as well, that we have the 11 regions, of which 8 are quite active. What would happen previously is that the regions were kind of doing things on an ad hoc basis, and there was little to no coordination between the various levels. So this then led to the business plan being developed. But as Amanda indicated, this is a living document. So to ensure that there's coordination and sharing of knowledge and best practice amongst ourselves as future leaders, we also developed a schedule of events so that we have one central point to share our events, which the central point being the CISA head office. And as Godfrey indicated, we work very closely with the various committees within CISA to ensure that there's coordination as well as collaboration between ourselves as future leaders, as well as amongst ourselves with, at the various regions. And as indicated, we all have embraced technology and the various social media platforms. So hence we use WhatsApp, we use Facebook, we use Twitter and LinkedIn quite extensively. And what this has allowed us to do is that we share information far and wide at a much quicker rate as prior to before. And then this also allows other future leaders within South Africa or even outside of South Africa to see what we are getting up to and possibly, you know, get into contact and kind of adopt ideas that they feel could also work in their regions. Because as indicated last week, what might work for Jesh and Amanda in Durban might not necessarily, in KZN, might not necessarily work for me in Gauteng province. So some of the events that the regional committees have hosted to keep the activism going, as well as to revive inactive branches, they include, but are not limited to, the ones that I'm going to highlight now. So we've had Lekotlas, which loosely translates to meeting of leaders, which we coupled with our CISA presidential visits. And the whole point of this is that we just got to engage with future leaders and just to spread a bit more information and knowledge on what we do and to get people to volunteer their services, to fly the consulting engineering banner high, but to also ensure the sustainability of the profession. And it was also an opportunity for the members to meet with the CISA leadership. Regions get to organize charity drives where they collect uniforms or stationery and they donate them to schools or worthy causes. We have meet and greets, which are coupled with an annual general meeting where new committees can be voted in, or a regional committee can get to share with its members what they've planned for the year and just to let people know how they can be part of the forums. We have workshops, we have job shadow initiatives, we have beach volleyball, which is hosted mainly by the coastal regions. We have action soccer, action netball tournaments, hikings, debates, quiz nights. We also have technical sessions. As much as, you know, it's fun to do all these things, we also realize that we need to empower our members. So we also have technical sessions such as road to registration, where we get professionals who are registered to guide and give pointers for those wanting to register. We also get senior professionals to guide future leaders on what it takes to be in management or what type of qualities do you need to be in leadership. We host financial wellness seminars. So there's an array, a mixed bag of activities that we host, which are based on what our members tell us that they'd like to see. And so all of these were mainly face-to-face interactions. And as we all know, due to the pandemic—
if you can please wrap up.
Okay. All right, definitely. We had to adapt, and I mean, we've now moved most of these activities online. So we've hosted some financial webinars, we've hosted wellness webinars. We'll be hosting YP leadership webinars, we'll be hosting the Mbizo online as well as quiz nights. And in closing, I think we'd like to say that with evolution and in line with developing and growing future leaders, the future leader grouping also just adapts to whatever is happening. And as Godfrey indicated, we also do change and follow whatever the mother body is doing, just to ensure that there's synergy between what we are doing and what the mother body is doing. So yeah, that's how we have adapted ourselves to make sure that we remain relevant and current. Thank you.
Thank you, Yanko, and thank you, Amanda, for sharing that. We get an appreciation for how much you guys have done and the grouping has done. So if you're wondering how you can, as a person who's trying to get your future leader group moving, if you're wondering how you're gonna be able to get all of this information and then try to contact each individual speaker, please have no fear. We are doing an update, as Italo mentioned, of the future leader reference document. That document is going to be your guide to helping you also understand what's happening around the globe. So we will collect business plans from all active future leader groupings. We will collate it and publish the guide on everything that we're sharing during these webinars. So you don't ever have to feel like you're doing this by yourself. But kudos to you guys who are keeping your future leader groups going. So thank you for that. So moving on to part 3 of our session, we're going to focus on membership, partnerships, and regional groups. So initially, both Bill and Italo spoke about our regional groupings, and our regional groupings form an integral part of how FIDIC reaches out to the MAs and to individual members. And there's 4 regional groupings that we are going to visit virtually today. EFCA being the European Federation of Engineering Consultancy Associations, represented by Lubomir. There's FIDIC Africa, represented by Harold Stonehuge, Rodrigo Juarez, who represents FIPAC, which is the Pan-African Federation of Consultants, and ASPAC, which is the Asia Pacific Regions Group, represented by its Vice Chairperson, Jitendra Singh. So the point of this particular session is to understand what the structure of the regional groups are, is if their groups are active in the region, their future leader groups are active in their regions. They'll tell us about some of their successes and failures, and if there's anything specific to their region that their future leader group is addressing. They'll also share with us some of the biggest challenges that they've experienced, which will be very useful if you form part of those regional groups, to also understand how to join, how to get in touch with the group. But what's also important is they'll also share with us what assistance they need from MAs and their regional group executive committees and from FIDIC. So this is really an information sharing session on your regional groups. So we're gonna go straight into it. Let's go over to Europe. We're going to open up the floor to Lubomir Petrov.
Hi everyone, and thank you, Jessica. And thank you for the opportunity to speak today and introduce you briefly the EFCA Future Leaders Group, which I can say is a pretty good example on how such a group can be created, transformed, and developed in a short period of time. And I think it would be interesting to share our struggles and successes, focusing on the Future Leaders Steering Committee, which I believe is the main active body which is trying to promote networking between the young professionals. Regarding the structure of our regional group, I can say that it was significantly transformed during the last 2 years. The structure right now is pretty much based on the structure of FIDIC Future Leaders Steering Committee. So we have chair, vice chair, and subcommittees with different champions. The subcommittees are changing annually after discussions between the steering committee. Right now we have subcommittees for organizing the conference, public relations, evaluation of members, awards, and a very important one, which is the preparation of strategy for future development of the organization. We also have in our structure a coordinator working part-time, hired directly from EFCA, who I consider a great help and a huge factor supporting our activities, which is basically a huge part of our support system provided by EFCA. We are now having 13 active members of the steering committee, representing 10 European countries out of 28. The beginning, if I can say, of our group in the current state is very interesting for the reason that when I joined the group initially, the main purpose was to organize YP Day during the annual conference without trying to achieve something more as a group. we had pretty much no structure within the steering committee, and we had just a few conference calls to discuss what we should do during the conference. Usually we were always trying to include someone from the local MA, a young professional who was a part of the steering committee for that particular year, and it was more easier to organize the event. We can very much say that we were pretty disorganized and without a clear view and goals for the future. But this was changed in 2016 when we signed a memorandum of understanding with the FIDIC Future Leaders Steering Committee to represent them in Europe, and that was the focal point where we started to think about expanding our goals as a group. So in 2010 to 18, we decided to have a fresh start, and during the FIDIC-EFCA annual conference in Berlin, we developed a structure with assigned chair and vice chair, which I believe was the first necessary step for the developing of the group. And after that, with the help of the other already developed groups within FIDIC, we started implementing a strategy and became I believe we became more visible within EFCA, and we started to represent ourselves more during the conferences. The biggest challenges so far as the steering committee, I believe that the biggest challenge is to keep the members active, since everyone is dealing with their work at home. And so my advice for for groups that are now starting is to choose wisely the people who are leading these committees, since it is up to them to require the involvement of all members, and how active the members are going to be and how successful the work of the committee is going to be. Other great challenge for us is to get more visible and to try to convince more people to join the organization and to see the benefits of participation, which I believe is a hot topic, I believe, and it was discussed during the previous webinar. One of the things that we are working on right now within EFCA is to develop a strategy to ask every member association within EFCA to nominate a representative young professional who should be part of the steering committee and represent their country. And we believe that this is going to be a huge help, and it will help the member associations to start developing such a young professionals group when they assign a person, a contact person, let's say, and who is going to be a part of the committee. And basically, for now, this is one of the main things that we are expecting as support from EFCA and the member associations. Right now,
you can also wrap up, please. Thank you.
Okay. Right now, the people who are joining the steering committee are mainly starting to getting more involved during the annual conferences. And we are trying to get more channels of communication, and through our LinkedIn page and through the other social media channels. So this is briefly about EFCA. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to head over to Harold, who will share a little bit about FIDIC Africa. Harold did introduce us to FIDIC Africa last week. So Harold, you can welcome. You've got 5 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Jessica. So once again, my name is Harold Stonyuge from Zambia, chairperson of FIDIC Africa. So I'll briefly talk about FIDIC Africa, which I equally touched on last week when we met concerning FIDIC Africa. So just a quick run through what FIDIC Africa, or rather when FIDIC Africa Future Leaders was formed. It was established in 2013 back in Khartoum, Sudan. And during the conference, it received an overwhelming response from future leaders across Africa who are so interested in joining and being part and parcel of FIDIC Africa. Today, FIDIC Africa is made up of 22 members who are in the steering committee. And these future leaders come from across the continent, Africa, representing 8 countries from sitting on this FIDIC Africa Future Leaders Committee. The structure of, or rather membership to FIDIC Africa is actually open to all future leaders who are either engineers, planners, or allied professionals whose member firm is part of FIDIC Africa and wishes to join the global network of professionals within the FIDIC Africa. These members of FIDIC Africa Future Leaders Committee, as Ella mentioned, come from different parts of Africa. We have, I think, in the first, for the first time, a steering committee or a future leaders committee, which is made up of more than 22 members. That just shows you how much interest there is in Africa down here. Most of these members of FIDIC Africa sit on the steering committee, where they act as champions of this steering committee. Of course, like EFCA and even FIDIC itself, the structure of the FIDIC Africa committee is that there's a chairperson who is assisted by the vice chairperson. So the current vice chairperson of FIDIC Africa is from Kenya, and the chairperson is actually from Zambia, currently holding the floor right now. Yeah, our committee or FIDIC Africa is actually doing very fine. I would like to think of it as being very active, because if you look at your screens right now, you'll notice that 6 of the speakers that are actually speaking today are members of FIDIC Africa. So that just shows you how active FIDIC Africa is and how, I mean, the interest that you receive from FIDIC, from Africa. Of course, FIDIC Africa has had the challenges and as well as successes, but I'll talk about the 2 successes that we've had as FIDIC Africa. By the way, going back to the structure of FIDIC Africa, we'll be happy to note that from the steering committee or from the Future Leaders Committee of FIDIC Africa, the chairperson sits on EXCO, which is FIDIC Africa Executive Committee. So once the chairperson comes into office, they automatically sit on FIDIC Africa Executive Committee. And then beginning last year, we were so happy that FIDIC Africa co-opted, because once the chairperson finishes their tenure of office, the next chairperson takes over and becomes a member of FIDIC Africa Exco. But then beginning last year, we were so happy that FIDIC Exco actually co-opted the immediate past chairperson, who happens to be the moderator today, Jessica Ramchand, to be a permanent member of FIDIC Africa Executive Committee. So again, that tells you how active FIDIC Africa is. Talking about the success that we've had, I'll talk about 2 successes that we've had so far. I know because of time, I'd have loved to share quite a number. But two of the successes that we've had as FIDIC Africa is that every year, beginning 2017, we always host a pre-conference congress. So we have a 2-3 days pre-conference congress where young or future leaders come together to talk about development strategies as a future leader, as well as just encourage one another on how to become active in the Future Leaders Committee or how to join. So that's one of the successes that.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jessica. The second success is that we've had last year itself. We also hosted the regional collaboration back in Kampala as well as Kenya, which was also overwhelmingly attended to by many future leaders. Some of the things that we are addressing today is that we want to promote or help national groups to stay afloat, especially that many are struggling, and that's the essence of this webinar. We've also encouraged active participation or engagement of future leaders across Africa. One of the things to summarize, Jessica, that would like FIDIC as well as member firms and member associations to help future leaders is that these future leaders require encouragement as well as sponsorship, because, for example, if you look at myself, from the time I was sponsored to attend the Marrakesh 2016 conference, just that gave me drive to attend most of the conferences as well as be active. So once MA's member associations, I know Godfrey touched on this, give the support that is required, future leaders will indeed become the bridge that we need in the consulting industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Harold. So we go over to Mexico City, and we're going to welcome Rodrigo Juarez, who will tell us about his role in growing FIPAC Future Leaders. Rodrigo, over to you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rodrigo from Mexico. So let me talk to you about what's been happening with FIPAC. First of all, FIPAC is the Pan American Federation of Consultants. It was founded in 1971. It's about to turn 50 years next year, and the head office is in Lima, Peru. So FIPAC is grouping and representing over 1,000 companies and over 80,000 professionals within Latin America. And currently FIPAC has associations from 14 countries, 12 in Latin America, which are Argentina, Brazil, Colombia, Costa Rica, Ecuador, El Salvador, Honduras, Mexico, Paraguay, and Peru, plus Spain and Portugal. So with FIPAC, there's been, it's kind of curious because it's been a very well-established region or grouping because it's been existing for over 50, well, around 50 years. But the thing is that there's never been a future leaders group. This is, let's say, a brand new initiative that I, as well as one of my colleagues in the Future Leaders Committee from Brazil, we are trying to push and start this grouping with everyone, because we believe it's a great opportunity, but also, of course, it represents a great challenge. So one of the challenges that we've been facing, at least in the Latin American region, is first of all, the language barrier with some other countries worldwide. We all speak Spanish, but of course, sometimes it's become a challenge for everyone to communicate with other countries. But also we've had a very big generational gap. What I mean is we've had a very good established set of engineering companies that are very old, and some of them that are very new. So there is this generational gap in the middle of where future leaders and very well-established companies that falls in the middle, and we've been struggling with that. So as I was saying also, we've had no previous future leaders group, but we've had some similar groups that could be used as a role model, as we were saying, for example, US, Canada, or the main example of South Africa that has been being discussed in the past couple of webinars. So there is also this big challenge that we need to overcome, that is this resistance to change, that we need to overcome this universal trend that future leaders group only require monetary support, but that organizations need to visualize that future leaders can bring value to their organizations because of all the relationships and networking and the opportunities to grow within our region and to expand to other regions. And for this, the executive support from our, let's say, our regional leaders is critical. And this brings us some other opportunities. What I mean with this is that for now, it's like, as I was mentioning before, it's the first time the Future Leaders Committee has 2 Latin American members. So it's a very good opportunity to keep growing this regional group and show the value that we can add to the organizations. Also, it's a very big opportunity to engage with future leaders locally in each individual country, regionally, but also worldwide, because of this very big established network that we already have. And this is also a very good opportunity for Latin American countries to develop their own groups, to engage locally and come together as a unified voice for Latin American future leaders that can be represented worldwide through FIPAC and FIDIC. And also, it's very important for me to mention that we just recently have a new president that was elected around 2 weeks ago, if I'm not wrong, Enrique de Aragão from Brazil. So I've been having some discussions with him, and it is very important for me to mention that there is a huge willingness from him to develop this group, and we're counting with his support. So this is also an invitation for everyone from Latin America that wishes to join to this initiative to contact me, and that we can start with this all together, because it's a very big opportunity with the associated challenges that this represents. Thank you.
Thank you, Rodrigo. I think it's great that you're being so honest about how hard you've tried and the reality of the challenges that go with trying to build a group. And you've got everyone's support and also new members that will come on board to give your grouping real traction. So best of luck with that, Rodrigo. We head on over to India, where we welcome Jitendra Singh, who's the Vice Chairperson of ASPAC Future Leaders. Jitendra, the floor is yours. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Jessica. I'm thankful to Future Leader Committee of FIDIC for providing me this opportunity to speak on this platform today. I'm Jitendra from Consulting Engineers Association of India, and today I'm representing Future Leader Group of FIDIC Asia Pacific region. Our group journey started in 2013, though the thought of creating a young professional forum took place some way back in 2008. And a pre-steering committee was also formed to give the ideas and suggestions, but it started in 2013. As you know, there are 22 countries in Asia Pacific region. And in the starting, we had representations from 9 MAs. And gradually, we enhanced the activities of the group. We got on board more members from different MAs. And today, we are having 19 members from 12 MAs as on date. Next, please. As Amanda discussed, and also we learned from Yanko, we have a business plan in place in ASPAC, and in the leadership of Takashi, sometimes in 2016, I think it was prepared in consultation with FIDIC. And this is a very robust business plan, which not only talks about vision and mission, but also goals, objectives, strategies, and also gives the guidelines for different kind of activities, which is helpful in meeting the objectives of the group. And the main objective of the group is the promotion and bringing forward the future leaders from the region. Next, please. So we have monthly meetings, and these meetings are happening online. We meet on Skype, and then we get an opportunity to meet in person during the annual conference, which happens ASPAC conference once in a year. Like we had in 2018 in Sri Lanka. Last year we had one conference in India. And this year we were set to have in Thailand this June, but because of COVID, it has got postponed. So we will see. And we take this as an opportunity. When we have annual conference, we organize more activities like having a dedicated session for future leaders in the conference, meet and greet session. And also this gives us opportunity to meet the ASPAC Executive Committee in person. And we publish newsletters. Those newsletters are published normally before the conference. So before ASPAC conference, before FIDIC conference, we publish the newsletter. As you can see, we have 8 subcommittees and 3 task force. And almost all the members of the executive committee are placed either as champion or assistant in the committees. In the last month, we had created a new task force for collating the information about safety protocols on construction sites happening in different countries of our region. And then we'll put it together and issue it to members as a best practices sharing. Next, please. When we look back into the areas where we have a scope for improvement, we find 2-3 areas more prominent. First is we targeted 2 years back that we'll introduce Future Leader Awards, but that has not happened so far. So we are in touch with ASPAC Executive Committee, and we'll try to put in the next annual conference, we'll try to introduce the Future Leader Award. Second area is, as I told earlier, that out of 22 countries, we have 12 countries representatives in our executive committee as of now. So what we are trying to involve more and more countries. In the month of March, we requested all our members to express their willingness to continue. And we found that 5 of the members will discontinue from this year. So we have zeroed on the countries like Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, and we will, while sending out the invitation next month, we will focus on these countries to nominate the representatives to be a part of our group. And if we find that some of the countries are not having a future leader group, we will try to help them and in consultation with FIDIC so that there is a coherent approach in developing the future leader group. Next, please. Our third challenge is our presence on social media. We are not very good in Twitter or Facebook as far as the activities of our particular group is concerned. And we learned from Sesa last week. We got links and we went through that. And I realized that there is a lot of scope at our end itself, like initiating a Twitter and sending the information, very quick information to our group members, to all the people who are following us. And also we would like to get support from FIDIC, like Italo was telling, for updating our ASPAC webpage on FIDIC website about its structure, about its members, and also linking some of the newsletters. That updation is required, we'll get in touch for that. Next, please. This is our team of present committee members. And as I told you that we are not very good in the social media, and also database, which I would like to understand from other members. Right now we are having Dropbox. We put all the members database, all the newsletters and relevant documents at one place. And then we have limited access given to few persons like chairperson and vice chairperson. And depending on the request by the member, we issue that document. So in course, we'll learn about sharing of information also. So as of now, that's all from my side about ASPAC. Thank you.
Thank you, Jitendra. I think it's very useful to have understood what's happening globally, and with our participants, also please do reach out to your regional groups as well as your MAs to get involved with the activities that are happening in your region. And the best way to see how all of these things come together is when you see it in practical implementation. And we have with us today 2 case studies that will be presented from Botswana and Uganda. And Michelle and Collins are both members of FIDIC Africa's Future Leader Committees, and they're responsible for growing their groups. So we're gonna visit Michelle Matibi in Botswana first, and she'll share with us her journey. Michelle, over to you. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you. Dumelang, greetings to everyone on the platform. Thank you to the moderator, the FIDIC president, and the FIDIC secretariat for such an opportunity. Barbara, slides, please. So just to continue as we wait for those to load, the FIDIC Future Leaders was actually launched on the 27th of June in 2017. So we are 10 days away from our 3-year anniversary. And our main vision is to unite, to support, and to represent ASAP Future Leaders from various member firms by hosting certain events and forums and other communication mechanisms. Next, please. To drive our vision, we have a structure that we formulated in our business plan where we have the chairperson. The chairperson also sits within the ASAP Council itself. They actually report monthly on the activities that the ASAP Future Leaders are carrying out. They get to vote on certain issues as well. We also have the past chairperson, which is very good for our succession plan, who stays on after his 2-year term. We have the vice chairperson, who actually then assumes the chairperson position after the chairperson has served the 2-year term. We have support from the ASAP office as well through the admin secretary to support the future leaders. And then one member from the ASAP council is nominated to sit within the ASAP future leader council as a supporter. Then we have 4 structures that we support our future leaders through, which is membership, mentorship, green technology, and business development. Next, please. In terms of the future leaders, it's normal practice as it's done with FIDIC future leaders that it's open to young professionals that are below the age of 40, but participation is not restricted. We actually open it up to ASAP member firms as well as those that don't belong to ASAP member firms, such as the universities. Then currently what we have is applications so that we have a database. And on our database, we have about 79 future leaders that come from 21 of the 52 member firms that we have. And the interesting thing is that most of the participation is for ages between 25 and 30, as you can see on the donut below there. And there's a balance for those between the ages of 20 and 25 and those between the ages of 30 and 35, and very low participation for anyone over the age of 35 years old. And the other way that we're doing very well is through our social media platforms. We have a Facebook page, which is ASAP YPF, that has 531 likes so far. We also have a Twitter page, ASAP_YPF, which has 99 followers so far. And then we have a local WhatsApp group open to any young professional in Botswana. And currently we have 85 members there. And one interesting thing about Botswana, unlike say South Africa, is that 92% of the members' firms are actually based in the capital city, which is Gaborone. So most of our activities and participation is in Gaborone and not across the whole country. Next, Barbara. And one of my last few slides is to actually highlight the ABCs, our achievements so far. We've achieved quite a lot within the 3 years in terms of our social media platforms hosting development workshops, and the favorite one for future leaders in Botswana is actually the technical site visits, where we actually get to travel very far. We have networking events. We've managed to launch membership application forms, basically for our database. We had our first newsletter last year. Also, we launched a sponsorship package. We've partnered with universities for workshops. We've attended even our neighbors' events, the CISA Imbizo, and ASAP actually sponsors the ASAP Future Leader Chairperson to attend FIDIC Gamma conferences as well as the FIDIC conferences themselves. And the nice thing about the ASAP FL, thank you, Jesh, the ASAP FL is that we've got 3 representatives from Botswana that actually sit on the FIDIC Africa Future Leaders Steering Committee. And moving ahead, there's things that we plan on doing. Our blueprints is the website. Would like to have a page on our website as well. Would like to actually have merchandise, review our business plan. We've had some challenges. I highlighted some of them at last week's webinar, which is low attendance and low participation. And I like what the FIDIC president responded to say, as although we are seen as billable hours, it's very important for our managers or bosses to actually value and realize that they're making career investments besides the billable hours that they see. And in closing, from one Michelle to the other, I would like to say success is only meaningful and enjoyable if it feels like your own. So I encourage each and every future leader to take ownership within their own MAs. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michelle. So we head over to Uganda, where we join Collins Kibira, who will tell us a little bit about his future leader grouping in Uganda. Collins, over to you.
Thank you, Jessica. I hope that everyone can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes, Collins, we can
All
hear
right,
you.
thank you. I'm representing the Future Leaders Group from our USCE. A short brief about the Future Leaders Group from Uganda. It was inaugurated in 2015, and it was formed by one of the future leaders who attended a conference that happened in Spain at the time, I suppose. That's to the best of my memory. And we have membership currently to only engineering professionals, people who studied engineering at the university. And these are people who are 35 years and under, and they should be employed by a member firm of the Uganda Association of Consulting Engineers. Like the previous presenter, we are also concentrated within Kampala. We do not have that many branches because most of the head offices for the consulting engineering firms are located in Kampala, which is our capital city. We hope to achieve several objectives that look similar to what the previous presenters presented to us. And in those, we hope to provide networking opportunities within our local and international networks within the FIDIC body. And then to promote avenues for young professionals to grow their professional careers, and also to empower the future leaders to take on leadership roles, which will subsequently be helpful in the organizations where they come from or the member firms where they are attached. And then we also hope to cultivate an environment where we can have sustainability so that we have enough people to join the steering committee if the ones who are on the current committee are no longer willing to move forward with that task. We also hope to build a very strong link between member associations, our member association, which is the Uganda Association of Consulting Engineers, with the future leaders who happen to be working for the member firms. And then for the bit of organization and administration, our activities are run by a leadership committee, like earlier presented, and all these roles are taken up on a volunteering basis. We receive MA support, like other presenters have noted, and this comes from Secretariat and the USCE Council, body of leaders. We usually have a budget allocated to us to do our activities, and we usually have opportunities to go and attend the FIDIC conference or the FIDIC Africa conferences, that paid for by our member association again. And then the chairperson of our FL group sits on the council of our member association to take part in decision making. And also the seats on our council are not limited to only the old professionals, but young professionals who are active in their member firm or organizations where they work. They take up those positions and also participate with the rest of the old professionals. Our council also participates in other events that we organize, like technical talks or induction meetings where they need to pass on knowledge or information to the future leaders. And then the Secretariat plays a very huge role in doing the administrative duties that we cannot do since we have 8 to 5 jobs that we have to also be gearing on with a lot of zeal. So Secretariat does a lot of running around for us and also mobilizing the future leaders and organizing the events and getting locations and all those other issues. Some of the lessons that we have learned, at least in the time that I have served on the committee, one for a group that is starting out like ours, which is only 3 years old, team development is very, very important. It is very key, especially if you are looking at increasing participation, since it has been raised as an issue for most of the future leader groups, that participation is low, or maybe their member firms send people who are not motivated, or all those issues can be ironed out in how you set up your team development. I know that the storming phase of a team development is usually the hardest when people do not have so many a big understanding of what future leaders are all about and how they fit into this FIDIC structure and all of that. So the leader or the chair plays a very big role in supporting these people to grow and also to empower them to take on the leadership roles and do their services with innovation and skill and bring up new ideas. Oh yeah, let me wrap up. And then you've got to be patient because these people have jobs like I was saying. So you have to give them time to execute their tasks. It might not be on your schedule, but you have to let them execute the tasks as much as they can so that they don't feel pushed. And then you should involve the council as much as possible, since you're also depicting an image of your member association. And not only doing your role as future leaders on your own, but you should fit into all the other tasks that your member association would be interested in, and that could be in terms of publicity or increasing growth and expansion. It could be in finance and administration or capacity building and public relations. That means that also the projects that you do, such as CSR projects and all that, should be geared to making sure that the member association is publicized out there to the rest of the group in Uganda in the professional sphere. I think I should just give you a few highlights of our biggest successes. We had an opportunity to have regional collaboration where members of FIDIC Africa came and gave us highlights of how they do things by diversity and inclusivity. We did outreach programs with universities, which we are intending to carry on and moving forward. And then we've also got a representation in FIDIC Africa, like Botswana said, and we have 5 members this time around. And then we're bringing up innovative capacity building ideas, like setting up YouTube channels where we can share ideas with even the rest of the future leaders in FIDIC Africa. From here, we're looking at stakeholder engagement because that's the key. That's what we see as the key in building our FL group. So we're reaching out to the future leaders within our group and going
I
from
really
there.
need you to wrap up, please.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I think that was really informative to understand what's happening globally. And we're going to go over to Romania, where Cosman's going to do a quick recap of this afternoon's session. Cosman, 2 minutes, over to you.
Yeah. Thank you, Jessica. I think, first of all, I think it's very interesting that in the last hour and a half, we heard the speakers from 5 continents talking about how the future leaders can develop and how can create a better network. We had from all over the globe different speakers who are chairs of their MAs or chairs of their regional MAs that promoted how we can do this for the future. So considering the former webinar, I would like to tell you that if we are now in the situation that to answer to the questions from the last webinar, I can tell you that Italo had said a lot in his presentation, considering how our group is formed and how we have the FIDIC Future Leaders Group, which is the group of all the young professionals worldwide of the International Federation of Consulting Engineers. What is our committee doing? The Future Leaders Committee, which is a committee which is appointed by the FIDIC board that is formed and to develop communication and networking opportunities. And I can tell you that after the last webinar, I had a talk with Jessica, because in that webinar 1 week ago, we have met Tia from Canada, who is the chair of the Future Leaders. We have met Janko from CESA, who is also the chair of the CESA Future Leaders. And we thought that it would be a good idea to have contacts from all the chairpersons of the Future Leaders worldwide, from all the MAs. We have a huge database, as Italo was saying, of 4,000 people, young professionals on our LinkedIn. But I think it's important to have a direct connection to the chairpersons of each MA in charge of the Future Leaders, in order to promote more briefly what we are doing and to develop our network. Next one, please. Next slide, please. Okay, so the conclusion was that we need your contacts. If you are a future leader or a young professional chairperson in charge of the Future Leader Group or Young Professional Group, please share your contacts at fidic.fidic.org, or it's my address there, cosmin.abolja@ro. Also, our contacts are on the FIDIC website, so please contact us and tell us what you need from us. And very briefly, because I know the time is running a lot, Italo also mentioned we have the deadline for the paper submission on 30th of June. So we have almost 2 weeks left for the e-booklet with the theme Infrastructure Development and Consulting Engineering, the New Normal. So please, if you'd like to share a paper, to share your idea about this theme, because I think it could be a great start for you in being part of our group. And also I would like to finish also very briefly, also connecting to what Italo was saying. I liked a lot what he mentioned, that this course, the FIDIC Future Leaders Management Certificate, is the MBA in Consulting Engineering. You have also the information on the link provided on this slide. And also, if you would like this, this video of us is going to be promoted on the FIDIC website. You have all the information there, and please contact us for everything you need in order to develop your group. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cosman. So unfortunately, we're not going to be doing questions in this session. We've had a really busy session. So Barbara, if you can why we're really excited to have had.
Want to know something about X?
We're getting some feedback. Okay. So thank you, Cosman. I'm sorry about that, ladies and gents. We're not going to be doing question and answers, but again, you've got our contact details, and we'd really appreciate if you would get in touch with us. Contact us on social media. I shared details earlier on. If you would, if you'd like to get some assistance, and also just share ideas. I think two highlights from this, takeaways from this session is the Future Leaders Chairpersons Network. Please be part of that so that your group is represented on this global platform, and the call for papers. We've covered a lot of ground in today's session, and it's really encouraging to see the kind of effort that future leaders are putting in across the globe. I'd like to leave us with a few thoughts. Firstly, the thank yous. Thank you to all the speakers, and thank you to the FIDIC Secretariat for setting up such an opportunity. For next week, we're going to be doing part 3 of 3, which is building successful future leader groups, operations and events for your future leaders group. So please do join us. Register for that specific event on the link. Next week, same time, same place. Further, I'd like to leave you with a few thoughts. One is that we should think of our future leader groups like a fine wine, that it gets better with time. And our MAs and senior professionals in the industry need to think about future leader groups as an investment now that will yield dividends for the profession in years to come. And that's really what we've seen being demonstrated over the years. And my customary quote for the week by Franklin D. Roosevelt, we cannot always build a future for our youth, but we can always build our youth for the future. And that's essentially what we're doing as future leaders. So I'd like to thank you all for joining us. If you missed any parts of this and if you would like to share, please do catch the recording on FIDIC's media channel on YouTube. But until then, until next week, do stay safe and do connect with us on social media. Thank you.